I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Well, hello, and yes, you are listening to transmissions from the NX 7062. I know I need to change it. Told y'all, thanks to Magic Lasso, I do actually have a really good idea of what I want to change it to. I just haven't gotten around to it yet because it's going to be a little complicated, but I will do it hopefully before I decide to change the name of the show again. So hello, thank you for joining me on this Monday evening. As you can tell, there's a little bit of a chill in the air because I got something warm on top. I've layered. Last couple of years, I'm not the long sleeve girl so much anymore as I am the find the layers and just wear them, because you know what? Sometimes you just get too warm and you want to, take something off, put something back on. Hi, Nancy. So I'm a layer girl. I have been for the last couple of years, and this little fuzzy roby thing was so cute and it's so comfortable. I decided to show it off on tonight's show. Also, once again, sporting my NX 7062 ball cap, which will be on my store. If not tonight, then very, very soon. That was me mentioning it last week and then forgetting to ask Punk Army to do it. So I don't know if Chris is going to be with us tonight. I talked to him earlier today. He and Jen posted pictures wearing my shirt in Dallas, and they said something about Captain Shaw wanting to say hi. So, Uncle Hairball, hello. I gotta get the skinny on if Todd Stashwick actually told them to tell me hi, because that would be totally cool. I love Todd Stashwick, and Todd Stashwick loves coffee, so what's not to love about Todd Stashwick? Hi, Robert and Casbar. Hello. So glad you guys are here. I get so excited when I see Casbar in the audience, or Slack Twaddle, or anybody, because then technically my show for the evening is international, and I absolutely love it. So before I forget, I even forgot to put this in my notes, but it popped in my head right before we went live. For those of you that don't know, Connor Trenier is off the market. He got married this past weekend. He posted some really beautiful pictures to his Instagram. So I am officially saying right here, congratulations to Jackie and Connor. May your marriage live long and prosper, because you are an amazing couple. And I've met them. I've met Jackie. Hey, Ed, how are you? I've met Jackie. Hi, Dave. Love Jackie. Jackie's fantastic. They are so disgustingly cute together. If anybody was at the Shuttle Pod Show live event, that's where I met her. They were smooching between events, and they're so cute together, and I'm incredibly happy for both of them. I think they're a great couple. So I wish them many, many, many years of happiness. So congratulations to Connor and Jackie. Let's see. So some other people that I've spoken to. John Billingsley, who is incredibly busy between the acting thing and the Trek Talks thing. So he definitely wants to come on the show. We're just pushing it off a little bit. I think we were kind of hoping that was going to be a little earlier, but we're going to push it probably to next month so that he can come on and talk about what I wanted to talk about. Plus, of course, come on and talk about all the amazing stuff that's going to be happening with Trek Talks this year. So be sure to be around for the month of December, because I've got that lined up. I'm looking at least one more guest for either next week or the beginning of December. Whatever week, my other guest, who I'm not saying because I haven't locked him down yet, whatever, either the 25th or the 2nd is going to be one guest, and the other day is going to be Chris. Chris is going to come on, and he's going to talk about comparing and contrasting a creation event to a SpaceCon event, which I think is great, because every convention has its pros and cons. Ha ha ha, pun intended. So can't wait to hear what Chris has to say now that he's experienced both. And I hope Jen, whenever if she left or is leaving, I hope she has a very safe flight back to the UK. I hope Chris gets home safely as well. Don't know if he drove or flew. 7 hours for me would be a toss-up. 7 hours for me would be, can I afford to get on a plane, or do I really want to have my car for the weekend? Because when you have your car for the weekend at a convention, it makes it so much easier to buy stuff and throw it in the back of your car. Just saying. So, okay. So tonight, tonight's show was inspired by the bartender at the Harmony Suites Hotel where I stayed for Star Trek New Jersey, which, by the way, right across the street, like I said, like literally throw a rock and you were going to hit the convention center. I loved Harmony Suites. If Creation's there next year, I'm going to book the minute that they announce dates because it's the perfect hotel. It's fantastic. But the bartender there, the first night I was there, I was all by myself. So I was chatting with the bartender, really nice guy. And I mentioned that I was there for the convention across the street. And he said, what? And I said, Star Trek. And he said, what? He had not only had he never seen it, he had never heard of Star Trek. He's only been in the States for about 8 months. I agree with you here, Uncle Hairball. For 7 hours, I probably would. Would that Vegas, I have at one point or another considered driving to Vegas. I might do it one day, but that's taken a lot of time off. So, but yeah, I've actually considered doing that. Anyway, so not only hadn't he ever seen it, he hadn't heard of it. So I had the heavy responsibility of trying to figure out how to explain over 50 years of television to somebody that did admit he likes science fiction, just had never heard of Star Trek. So that's what inspired me for the show tonight. Because how would you do that? How would you explain Star Trek to somebody that's never heard of it? Gene Roddenberry described it in the beginning as a wagon train to the stars, which is fantastic and worked when he was pitching it because Wagon Train was on the air. You can't, what, is there something you can compare it to that would make sense for today? Like I said, yeah, newbie alert. Oh my God, big time newbie. What would you compare it? Could you compare it to something today? You can't compare it to Star Wars. Okay, and if you haven't seen Star Trek, which is kind of like the godfather of all really good science fiction, you can't compare it to, you can't compare it to Lost in Space. Battlestar Galactica, they're all different. Battlestar Galactica, Andromeda, Stargate. These are just the ones that are rolling off the top of my head. But they're all different, and the dynamics are different. And what Star Trek stood for back in the 60s, that social reform, it's all very different. So how do you describe it? I kind of did. And then you have to sit down and you have to think, all right, obviously a picture's worth 1,000 words. So film is worth even more. So maybe you want to sit somebody down to watch it and watch it with them, which got me thinking, how would you do that? Would you do it in chronological order of release? Like start with the original, start with TNG and then move ahead? Or sorry, not TNG, TOS. Would you start with TOS and just do it the way it was broadcast, sprinkling the movies in between? Would you do it in chronological order, which would be Enterprise, Strange New Worlds, then TOS? And there are definitely there are definitely underlying themes. I would absolutely agree with that. So the one thing that I would, in some way it reminds me of Batman, our hero saving the day once again. Okay, yeah, maybe a little bit, but not enough. Not enough, I don't think, to make that comparison. That comparison would be confusing. In my opinion. Because it's just Batman is, the dynamic duo, and then everybody else is a villain, and then you've got the Commissioner. I just watched Batman 66 yesterday. It's on H&I on Saturdays and Sundays. So I've got the Batgirl theme in my head. See, where's Lasso? He would totally appreciate that. Let's see. Robert says, the great thing about Star Trek is that everybody had a moral issue that reflected what was happening in the real world. Yes. And that is very true. And some of even the TOS stuff resonates today. But this is what I was reminded of. I don't know if anybody has heard of the Star Wars Machete viewing order. It came out in about 2012, give or take, where somebody sat down and figured out you can tell basically the story of Luke Skywalker, which is the base of all 9 Star Wars movies. You can tell the story of Luke Skywalker in a way with the movies that are not in release order. They're not in release order. And they figured out that you don't even need the Phantom Menace. You can literally just knock the Phantom Menace out, which limits Jar Jar Binks' exposure. You can knock the Phantom Menace out if you watch it in the order of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, then Attack of the Clones, then Revenge of the Sith, then Return of the Jedi, then The Force Awakens, then The Last Jedi, then Rise of Skywalker. So you can actually, that's a cohesive way to tell a story that was kind of disjointed because it started in the middle, then went to the beginning, and then came back and finished it. So that's a way that they're suggesting that people that are new, that have never seen Star Wars, or even if you have seen Star Wars, watch it in that order and see the cohesion of the stories. Just tell them to watch it. Yeah, but Ed, that's like 600 million hours of television. So yeah, sit down and watch it. Have fun with that. Get back to me in a couple years when you're done. Uncle Hairball would go in order of relief, but be sure to explain the gaps between series, like how many years passed in the Trekverse between TOS and TNG. Okay, you could do that. But again, I mean, here's a dilemma too that you may want to think about, especially if it's somebody younger that's grown up in the age of CGI. I love Doctor Who. Now, first time I ever saw Doctor Who, it was Baker, because the scarf. I remember the scarf. I was a kid, couldn't get past the bad production value, and now we're talking 70s, 80s, give or take. So this wasn't even based on cool special effects and the cool things that I saw in the movies and all that. This was just based on, ooh, that scenery looks really bad. These people are running around in tinfoil. I can't. So, do you really want to start somebody with TOS? Because as good as the stories are, the production value is 1966. And sometimes you can't, no matter how good the stories are, you can't get past the production value. I fell in love with Doctor Who in the reboot in 2005. Enough that I fell in love with it that I wanted to know the history, that when I went back, I was more invested in the stories than the bad scenery and the pepper pots and the tinfoil. So do you want to get somebody invested by showing them something modern so that they can go back and not be turned off by the 66 production value? I would pull select certain episodes, TOS, TNG, etc., maybe 4 to 5 from each. There you go, and have my tops to showcase for a newbie. I wouldn't flood a person by showing them a full gamut at first. I agree, Dave. You gotta go. Y'all don't kill me or ban me, but I've never seen Doctor Who. It's okay. It's okay. Neither is Magic Lasso. It's all right. Doctor Who is amazing. But like I said, Lassie, I got to text Lasso and tell him I was talking about him behind his back. It is amazing. It's incredible. But like I said, I had to get invested in the 2005 version because that was again, back to the, I can't think of a different word to use, back to the production value, because it was modern and it looked good. And then once I got invested in the Doctor and his story and the fact that, yes, almost 50 odd years later, it was still the same guy, that's what made me go back. So do you do that and maybe find some really good episodes of TNG and start with those, and then let them get invested in Star Trek and then send them to TOS? Or do you cherry pick episodes of TOS, like City on the Edge of Forever would be one for me. Let This Be Our Last Battlefield, because they both have they're very poignant stories. Amok Time, because A, it's my favorite, and be that music, that battle song. They'll wreck it. It's a pop culture reference now. That dun 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 dun. It's pop culture reference. I would definitely use Amok Time because I can almost guarantee you that if somebody's seen a movie, they used it in Cable Guy. I mean, if somebody's seen a movie or something, they'd be like, wait, I know that song from somewhere. You could be like, that's where it started. But Amok Time is great because you get to understand the Vulcans. Never Spock's brain. Never Spock's brain. Somebody was actually dressed like Spock from that episode. It is great cosplay and a terrible episode. Brain, what is brain? It is a terrible episode. But it's good Spock cosplay. How can you really tell what someone will like? Some younger people may latch onto the quaintness of the 60s. Oh, this is a good point too, Dave. See? Takes a village to figure out what you would tell a newbie. How can you really tell what someone will like? Some younger people may latch onto the quaintness of the 60s aesthetic. And to be fair, I don't like the super modern lens flare. Lens flare is overdone. I will give you that. Here's the big question. After you get them hooked, do you show them the Kelvin movies or do you pretend like they don't exist? Hey, Chris, you're here. Wasn't sure if you were going to make it. Didn't know if you were traveling home today. To each their own. Yes. Can't satisfy everybody's tastes. All about the balance. You got to figure. Yeah, I think it's definitely Balance of Terror is a good one too. I definitely think that you have to talk to the person. You can't just sit there and say, all right, this is my list that I would show a noob, because you definitely want to find out, what their interests are, if social, if morality plays in social causes and things like that. Oh, I'm glad you made it home. And I know I've seen the post. I know you had a really good time. So Tholian Web is a good one. And the nice thing about Tholian Web is then you can show them some of the best Enterprise and you can show them In a Mirror Darkly and they'll get it. That's why I like old Godzilla movies. I like the cheesy fireworks stuff. And the guy, yeah, exactly. Some people do like cheesy. Some people do like cheesy. So it depends. I mean, ask them, do you like the cheesiness of that kind of stuff, or is it turn you off? Because if it turns them off, then you know that you need to start with TNG and maybe skip the entire first season and then maybe skip ahead to the third season, because you should never start somebody in TNG with Pulaski. But first season, definitely, obviously not the first episode, Farpoint. See, this is the problem. Farpoint obviously is the pilot episode, so it's not the greatest, but it introduces Q. So how can you not show somebody Encounter at Farpoint when it introduces one of the most wonderful, personal opinion, wonderful characters in Star Trek? I wonder if Slack Twaddle is going to show up tonight, because my nails, for the first time I think ever, are completely naked. If anybody's noticed, I did nothing. I took the nails off the other day and I haven't painted them or anything. I was actually thinking about doing something, but then I decided to give my nails some air for a little bit. Total non sequitur. Show them Star Trek Beyond. Yes, Star Trek. See, but okay. So show them Star Trek Beyond. That was the best Kelvin and kept with the theme of Star Trek and lore. Not Into Darkness, because people will get confused. It is, but then don't you want them to see Enterprise so that they understand Makos and Xindi and the Romulan War? So when do you show them the movies? Do you let them watch some cherry-picked TV and then say, all right, now you've got 13 movies? Because she's annoying as hell. Oh my God, I can put my finger on it. Okay, so I don't know, Uncle Hairball, if you've ever heard. Wait, you know what? I'm going to find this. Hold on 1 second. This is actually, I'm not just posting this for Uncle Hairball. I'm posting this for some friends because I introduced my friends to this, and I think I've mentioned it on the show a couple times. But give me a second. Y'all have to look at. It's a YouTube video, so you're all gonna have to look at it later. But Oh God, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. People look it up enough on YouTube that it oh, okay. No, I'm not download. Wait. I wonder if I can play it. Hold on a second, guys. Let me see something. Share screen. I can. Hold on, guys. This is going to be epic. Give me a second. Okay. I just don't know if you're going to hear this.
I think it's a mistake to just capitulate on the tax abatements.
Well, what's the point? Wasting the time of 6 attorneys? Fighting over a moot point?
It's not a moot point, Leland. It's a contingency. It's what every good lawyer plans for.
Rosalind, I'm sorry I can't marry you.
This isn't about that.
This is about that. For the past week, I've been getting nothing but resentment. You know that's true.
I don't resent you, Leland. If anything, maybe I resent myself.
For staying with a man who doesn't love you.
I really don't want to talk about it.
Rosalind! Oh my God!
Okay, so that was oh, awesome. Thanks, Chris. So that was Diana Muldaur's exit from LA Law, where she fell down an elevator shaft. So that's just a joke I have with my old friends over at Lambda Quadrant, because they are not Pulaski fans either, but they've never watched LA Law before, and up until recently, it wasn't streaming. I think it's streaming on Hulu now. But so I shared that with them, and it's their favorite thing is watching her fall down an elevator shaft, because as much as we hated Pulaski, that her character was hated on LA Law too. So yeah, so anyway, that's just funny. That's how I feel about Dr. Pulaski. Never like they brought her in, and the reason she was so cranky and salty was because they were trying to kind of make her a modern version of McCoy to have that kind of relationship with Picard. It just bad writing. I don't know whatever it was. It just didn't come off as that. She just came off as obnoxious and unlikable. See, Chris, there's a part of me that wants to say, yeah, I'd start off with Enterprise. And then there's another part of me that wants to lean towards Release Order, because there's something about the Release Order that makes more sense. But it is, yeah, it didn't work. It never worked. Let's see, Robert, Star Wars did the whole thing backwards from Star Trek. They did the movies first, then came out with a different series to explain the movies, where Star Trek did the series first. Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. But the question is, would there even be Star Wars series if Disney hadn't bought it? Oh, yeah, Trip's hanging out. I don't know where Vader is. He's probably on the bed. He's gotten to really like laying in the bed. But yeah, if Disney, Casbar says hi, Trip. Yeah, if Disney, because they didn't. Well, wait, yeah, Disney's owned it, and they're responsible for the TV series. So I just wonder what Lucas would have done if he hadn't sold it, if there would have still been TV series. That's interesting. That's just something I'm thinking of. But yeah, I'm leaning towards some really good cherry-picked TNG episodes. You gotta do some Tasha, so you definitely want to do a couple from the first season, and then maybe skip the entire second season. Or show one or two from the second season. Oh, you should show Elementary, My Dear Data. So it was a good one. And then as quickly as you can, go into the third season, so that they can appreciate how amazing Dr. Crusher is compared to Dr. Pulaski. You definitely, that's the only reason I would do it, is so that people can appreciate Measure of a Man's a fantastic one. Absolutely, Robert. See, I'm only good with Enterprise titles. I'm not as good with TNG titles. Dreamhead. Oh, Drumhead. I was gonna say, what's Dreamhead? Drumhead. Okay, that's a good one. You guys are gonna hate me, but the whole Tanagra thing, whatever. I can't. I used to know the name of that episode. What's the name of the episode? Shaka when the walls fell. Offspring's a good one. Data's Daughter's a good one. Wasn't it called Data's Daughter? Data's Daughter's a good one. Offspring. No, it's Offspring is the title. Gotcha, Robert. I didn't like, not big on the Inner Light. I thought it was too slow. Not big on the Shaka when the walls fell episode. I think I'd skip those. The one where Riker fell in love with the alien from the planet of a single gender was good. Can't remember that one either. The one with Matt, I would also find like the funnier ones, like the one with Matt, with Max Headroom. Now we're wading into the fact that if you're going to show them Sarek, then you definitely need to show them some TOS. And Journey to Babel has to be one of them. Half a Life, Unification. Oh yeah, see, Unification, Best of Both Worlds. See, that's the thing. That's why. Oh yes, 110101, the Binar episode. Absolutely, I love Minuet. Outcast. That's the one I was just talking about, right, Dave? With the single gendered species. Yeah, but see, when you start talking about things like Sarek and Unification, then you've answered the question of what should you show them first. Because Unification and Sarek have to be shown after TOS, or they make no sense. See, I wouldn't do the Inner Light, but you do you, Dave. I am terrible. I don't. And for those of you Doctor Who fans, wasn't a big fan of the Weeping Angels either. I don't know, the really, really highly popular ones, the Weeping Angels, the first episode of the Weeping Angels, Blank. Wasn't a fan of Blank. I like the Weeping Angels. Was not a fan of Blank, but then again, it was a Martha episode, and I'm never a fan of Martha. Although there were some really good lines. Angels stole the police box, that kind of thing. But yeah, the whole episode just didn't do it for me. But yeah, so I think yes, Cupid. Oh yeah, Cupid's good. And again, that has to go back to, see, and I think we're answering our own questions. We have to, like Dave says, you have to complete the circle. So I think, as badly as I would love to start with Enterprise, just because that's a chronology, I don't think you can do that because everything's so interwoven with everything else that you need to show them in their release order. So things make sense. I know Likey the Flute. No, didn't like the flute. Didn't like the episode. Sorry. There's got to be one, right? I mean, I love Enterprise, so there has to be something that I don't like about Star Trek besides Voyager, and it's the Inner Light. But yeah, so I think we have to show. But like I said, you have to cherry pick. I also would not show the Doomsday Machine. I do not like the Doomsday Machine, but I would definitely do a muck time so you can get an understanding of Vulcans, because that runs through. And then if you're going to show them Sarek, you got to show them Journey to Babel. And also because they're, you get introduced to like the Andorians and the Tellarites. So that's the other thing, is you got to find those earlier episodes that are going to introduce them to some of the alien species that dominate the rest of the series. Then, so, you got to show them at least one Ferengi episode. See, you could almost skip the first Ferengi episode and do Menage a Trois, because I think that actually sums the Ferengi up better. But you could do Menage a Trois, which is one of my favorites. I did like Menage a Trois. But, so yeah, so I think, so you cherry pick. And then, do you skip series? Like TOS TNG. We all know what happened with Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. They were disliked very heavily when they first came out for a lot of different reasons. So would you skip a series and say, listen, this is what, absolutely. And we all love a good Andorian, thanks to Jeff Combs. So that leads to release order makes more sense, but also add in choice movies too. Oh, yep, space. You gotta do, Chris is right. You gotta do Space Seed. Mud's Women's Space Seed for sure. That's when we get Khan. You know, it's interesting though. Yep. Yeah, I thought I said Tellarites. Yeah. No Ferengi and TNG, only DS9 Ferengi. I don't know. Menage a Troy laid some interesting groundwork for the Ferengis that we saw in DS9. I think you need to at least do Menage a Troy before you do DS9. DS9 is very nearly a standalone. I might agree with you. So the question is, do you skip it? Is there anything that you would skip? Be it Legacy or New Trek? Is there anything you would skip? I might skip Lower Decks. Why? Because Lower Decks, I feel like Mike McMahon wrote it for us, the diehard fans that have been with the show for years and appreciate it when it pokes fun at itself and gets all the Easter eggs. And we get the Easter eggs because we've watched every episode more than once. We understand when oh wait, this is Prodigy, but we understand when a Horgon floats by the screen, or we understand when somebody says something about a cryogenically frozen princess on Lower Decks. And again, I have not watched this season, no spoilers, I'm binging it when it's over, but like the gel scene restaurants, it's definitely Adult Swim. It's definitely Adult Swim. And like I said, it's not for new people. They're not going to get it. And I just think they're going to get turned off by it. They're not going to understand it. It's not for new people. I don't think. It's really for us. It's for the diehard Trekkers and Trekkies who've been with the franchise long enough to appreciate when it can laugh at itself. So I think that I would skip Lower Decks. I'm not sure if I would skip to season 3 of Discovery though, because there's a lot of groundwork in the first 2 seasons, especially character development with Michael Burnham. And if you skip to season 3 of Discovery, then you miss out on the cute toothbrush scene between Kubler and Stamets. I think you need to show. I'm not sure I would skip all the way to season 3. The whole Red Angel thing killed me. Was ridiculously slow. I am not going to say that it's not, but I just don't know if you can skip all the way through to season 3. And the newbies graduate and get some references. It'll make sense. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I might even consider telling a newbie that Prodigy works. Oops, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. Awesome. Can't wait. My guess is that means it's the decon chamber scene. I have seen the trailers. I just haven't watched anything, but I can't wait. Yeah. So let's see what else. All right, so would you wait until it was all over? Until they said, okay, I've watched all of the episodes that you recommended. I'm good with all the TV shows. And then say, watch the movies. Or would you kind of say, all right, well, it was about this time in Star Trek history when, like, you've watched the episodes and this is about the time when the movie came out. I'm not even sure I would show. I don't think I would show them Star Trek the Motion Picture. Because even us true fans can find it snoozeville. So I would get them through TOS, maybe a little bit of TNG, then tell them they could watch Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, maybe even potentially skip 5, maybe just 2, 3, 4, and 6. I don't think 1 and 5 need to be shown until later. And then absolutely First Contact, especially if they're going to get to Enterprise. So I would make sure that somebody watched First Contact before they watch their first episode of Enterprise. Because you really need, because obviously Broken Bow, which I would tell somebody to watch. Keep your shirt on, Lieutenant. So definitely First Contact. If they're gonna start watching, and here's the other thing. If you're gonna send them through all the way through, up through Picard, then as much as we don't like Nemesis, they have to watch Nemesis to put the whole Data thing in context. So, but they could skip Insurrection. Yep. Dave agrees with me. Enterprise minds think alike. I have found that out. As much as season 1 and season 2 had problems, you need this for... Yeah, exactly. Character groundwork. Yep. I like that. Necessary roughness. I like that. But at least the newbies have us to tell them what not to watch and what to watch. You can skip this. You kind of have to watch the Vulcan Hello because you got to figure out why Burnham is ostracized in the beginning, and then you can cherry pick all the other episodes. But they definitely, you have to, exactly. You have to intersperse the movies in about the same time that they appeared. Generations would be good just because it's that crossover is really sweet. If they've watched TOS and they've watched TNG, then you definitely have to do Generations. But I think, like I said, I think you can skip Insurrection. You can skip Insurrection. You can't skip First Contact. But you can, and you kind of have to watch Nemesis, or you just tell somebody Data died at the end of Nemesis. Although, say what you want for Nemesis, when Before was sitting there whistling at the end, and Riker and Troy got married. I mean, there were. If your friends ship Riker and Troy, then they have to watch Insurrection and Nemesis. If they ship Riker and Troy, because that's kind of pretty cool. But outside of that, they can skip. Why did Generations piss you off? I mean, it wasn't great, and Kirk did die, but then William Shatner wrote a book and brought himself back to life. So there's that. That's interesting. I've never heard anybody say that Generations pissed them off. That's really interesting. Wasn't terrible, just meh. First Contact was much better. Kirk dying will confound the newbies, but they have to know the Enterprise decrashed. They have to know Deanna crashed the ship. Why do you think it would confound the newbies? If they've watched enough TOS, then... Oh, and you gotta watch it too, because that's when Data gets the emotion chip. So that's another... That's if you feed them enough TNG so that they get to appreciate Data, so you've got to show them Naked Now. You got to show them Naked Now. If they get enough to appreciate Data, then Generations and him getting the emotion chip will be really cool. Yes, we could. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Yeah. And honestly, not even mine. They can come to me after to talk about stuff, but, the original premise of the 7th Rule, to watch and talk about DS9, I think the Delta Flyers talked about, Voyager. That's it. Gotcha, Uncle Hairball. There are definitely a lot of podcasts out there that break down episodes. Yes, exactly. They have to learn that Data is fully functional and programmed in multiple forms of whatever. Randy has a shirt that says I'm fully functional. It's great. I think he made it. I don't know, or did he buy it? I honestly don't remember. Randy is such a t-shirt guru. It's hard to tell what he's purchased and what he's made for himself. I think he made the fully functional one though. Thank you. Programmed in multiple techniques. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Uncle Hairball. I'm programmed in multiple techniques. So yeah. So if you're going to see, but now we're back to if you're going to show somebody naked now, you got to show them naked time. Because you've got to really, if you guys are ever really in this position, you have to sit down and curate this list. Because I could see you going, all right, these are the TOS episodes you should watch. And then you get into TNG and you're going, da-da-da-da-da, and you're realizing you're recommending things like Sarek, but you didn't recommend Babel. So then you got to go back and go, oh, well, you got to watch Journey to Babel so you can watch Sarek. And then maybe, and then Unification. Well, you got to make sure that they've watched at least one or two Romulan, like Balance of Terror. You've got to make sure that they've watched some Romulan stuff so that they understand what's going on in Unification. It could literally take, it's not a simple question to answer. It really isn't. Some TNG movies were candy. Some later TNG movies were candy. They moved the general cast and story along without messing up canon too much. Brain Candy, which is the title of the Kids in the Hall movie that Nicole DeBoer is in. Just brought Kids in the Hall to Star Trek in one move. Learned that actually from Nicole at our first panel, the year I met her. I went up to her and gushed about Dave Foley because I would love to meet Dave Foley. I think Dave Foley is a comic genius. But yeah, and I can't find it. I cannot find Kids in the Hall Brain Candy. Kids in the Hall show, the new Kids in the Hall on Amazon. Both are there. Brain Candy, nowhere to be found. For anybody that doesn't know about Kids in the Hall, it's Lauren Michaels, and it's basically the Canadian version of Monty Python, and it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Why do I feel like there's another Star Trek? Something somewhere in Kids in the Hall. If anybody wants to hear about Kids in the Hall, one of my interview with Nicole DeBoer a few years ago in Vegas, we actually talked about Kids in the Hall. Oh, that's awesome. Did they come the farthest? That's interesting that they picked Trek Dallas. That's kind of cool, though. Maybe the climate's the same. But, Chris, we're going to absolutely be talking about it. Like I said, as soon as I know as soon as I get an email back, I might have to follow up. I don't want to spoil anything. I know who the guest is. Obviously, I know who I'm talking to, but I don't want to spoil anything for you guys until the guest confirms that he is available, which date he picks. He told me next week and the week after were the 2 dates he was available. So I'm waiting to see what he says. So, okay. So yeah, I think it would be a lot of homework if somebody came up to you and said, I've never seen Star Trek. What do I do? But we've established a couple things. Kelvin timeline, not necessarily, but Beyond would be good. Show the movies kind of interspersed with where they are with watching the shows. Cherry pick the shows and start with TOS. Don't start them like with Enterprise with a chronology. You got to start them with TOS, and you got to make sure that you show the right episodes because things get interwoven as you move along. Me and my local Trek bud, Stephanie, discussed this very thing, the newbie list. Oh, here we go. You have another Trek bud named Stephanie? Ugh, Dave, I'm so disappointed in you. Discuss this very thing, the newbie list at ST Chicago, because she just introduced a friend. She has a whole damn spreadsheet of episodes. Yeah, exactly. So you have a cheat sheet, Dave, if anybody ever asks you. Oh, no worries, Uncle Hairball. Kids in the Hall. So damn good up there with Trailer Park Boys. Yeah, Kids in the Hall was awesome. They do Full Frontal in the first episode of the new one on Amazon. But yeah, I love Kids in the Hall. I think that they're really great. And I squish you. Sorry, if you've never seen Kids in the Hall, it's on Amazon. Go watch it. It's good to watch. It's good to watch on a gummy too. All right, guys, so that's your homework assignment. Trying to figure out, put together a huge ass spreadsheet of what you would send to a newbie. And then if Trek New Jersey's in the same spot next year, I could hand a spreadsheet. The bartender's still there. I'd be like, hey, guess what? Here you go. This is what you should do to watch Star Trek. I mean, he asked me. I actually just kind of Googled Star Trek so I could show him some pictures and, and get like a jumping off point, because it's just, how do you start that conversation? Almost 60 years worth of TV. How do you start that conversation? So I'm going to close on something that's really adorable. So since my 10 days out on the West Coast, I wasn't watching my shows because I didn't feel like watching them on a tablet. So I figured, I'll watch them all when I get back. So I'm catching up on everything. So tonight I watched an episode of 911, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Connor Trenier is the captain. Oh, one Stephanie at a time. Well, then I hope she never comes to Vegas. Ha. So I was watching 911. Like I said, Connor Trenier had a recurring role as the bomb squad captain, but nobody has tried to blow up LA recently, so he hasn't been back. And there was a point where Captain Nash said something like, I'm a something, not a something else. So I'm like, haha, Trek reference. Then I got done that, started watching some other things, and ended up watching Happy's Place, which is the new Reba McEntire comedy on NBC, which is really cute. And I love Reba. I think she's fantastic. And literally the episode, one of the characters said to the other, okay, Mr. Sulu, you have the con. And the very young girl was like, what? And the other guy's like, it's a Star Trek reference, but really old TV show Star Trek. Which I thought was funny. 21. Oh, okay. I think I like the twist where this conversation's heading. But, so I think we should wrap it up so people can go enjoy their bowls and their gummies and whatever else. And go watch a couple episodes of Kids in the Hall. So next week, be on the lookout, because one way or the other, and you'll all know as soon as I know, I'm going to have a guest. Will it be Chris? Will it be the mystery guest? I don't know. You're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, guys, as always, please make sure to live long and prosper.
Listening to the